Hello, this is Jim Stocks. I'll bring you another teaching entitled The Handwriting on the Wall. And it's my purpose to bring the light end-time Bible prophecy and relate it to current events. What we're going to study today is the mark of the beast. And our chapter, the verse that we're going to look at comes from Revelation chapter 13, verse 16. And it says, "He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except the one who has the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." So many times we hear that quoted, and I've done it myself. So, I'm not blasting other preachers because I've made a lot of mistakes myself. But a lot of times we say, "He causes all, rich and old, young and poor, to receive a mark so that no one may buy or sell." But that's not what it says. It says, we're going to look at the word here that is operative. The word that we're going to look at is or. A closer look at that verse shows that there are three options for people to use in order to buy and sell. The key word here is or. They can have the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So people have three options. Not just a mark, not just an indelible mark or a computer chip, but they have an option. They can have a mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Now the next word that I want you to look at is all. The Eastern mindset uses the word all to mean everyone under that jurisdiction of that word. It doesn't mean it to be inclusive. And we hear a lot of times, Bible teacher says, what does all mean? It means all. Well, not in the Eastern mindset. It means everyone within range of the word that is spoken, or under, if it's a king, under his provincial control. It doesn't mean all people of the world. And we have been taught that there's going to be a mark, that is going to be a one world government, and that they're going to mark everyone, and that no one can buy or sell. I want you to relax. That is not going to happen. That is not going to happen. There will be nations who will not receive the mark. There will be nations who will not come under the Antichrist. There will be nations who will oppose the Antichrist, and there'll be stronger nations than the Antichrist nation on earth during this time, that the mark. So I'm going to tell you about that. The word all, look, in Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar issued an edict that all people, nations, and languages would bow down to his statue when they heard the sound of the flute, the harp, the lyre, or the psaltery. And it's pretty evident that the North American Indians, or whoever was living in North America at the time of Nebuchadnezzar, did not bow down when Nebuchadnezzar had his men play the flute. Because the flute and the harp and the lyre could only hit whatever jurisdiction that Nebuchadnezzar controlled, and that was ancient Babylon. So everyone, all did not mean all people of the world. It meant all within that jurisdiction. In chapter 4, Nebuchadnezzar again addresses all peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth to hear his proclamation. Well, his proclamation, all the people of the world, of course, did not hear his proclamation. There are many instances in the Bible where all is used, and it doesn't mean all people of the earth. So put that in mind. Now, the Antichrist is the beast, and he's referred to as the beast. The Antichrist kingdom is the beast kingdom. And we can see it raising itself up now. In spite of our Bible theology, we see the kingdom rising. And we see more news coverage of the kingdom rising. And it's affecting us. The beast kingdom is the rebirth of the Ottoman kingdom, which I will teach later, and I have taught on before. It's an Islamic kingdom. His kingdom, the Antichrist kingdom, is going to include these following nations: Jordan, Syria, Iran, Iraq, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Libya, and Ethiopia. And some of these nations are going to turn on Arabia and eventually destroy Arabia, because they fight amongst themselves. It's an Islamic beast, Islamic kingdom that is rising. And it's been rising up ferociously in the last few years. Islam is not a religion, but rather a political system that includes a legal system based on Sharia law and a religious system called Islam. Many of our brothers and sisters in Christ have been brutally tortured and murdered recently in the Mideast and throughout all the years. But recently, in the Mideast, they have been brutally tortured. Women have had their breasts cut off. Men have been mutilated, arms cut off, tortured, burned. Just like our ambassador was burned and sodomized. Islam is a religion of war. The emblem for Islam is two crossed sabers, Arabian sabers. That's Islam. That's Islam's symbols. It's a religion of war. It's the brothers and sisters who are under this Islamic empire that won't be able to buy or sell unless they receive the mark or his name or the number of his name. And that's happening already in those countries. They're classified as second-class citizens if they're not Islamic. And many have had to die or confess Islam. And that's what it means. If you're under that kind of oppression, you can't buy or sell unless you confess Allah to be God, unless you deny the Christ and confess Allah. Or you wear his mark, which is his insignia on your right arm or on your forehead. They wear, in all their demonstrations, they wear, their forehead is marked with the cross sabers and then their motto, their creed. Their creed is also a name. And their creed says there's one God and his name is Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. That is the creed of Islam. Presently, it doesn't look good for the United States. Islam has gained a strong foothold in our legal system, in our government, and in our military. The United States, under the leadership of President Barack Hussein Obama, has been the main culprit in the conflict that's been going on in the Middle East. Remember, President Obama asked Mubarak, president of Egypt, to step down. President Obama broke a peace accord, the Camp David peace accord that the United States had with Egypt. By doing that, he independently asked that Egypt, that Mubarak stepped down, and then Morsi came and became their president. And then they tried to implement Sharia law. Sharia law, which forbids women to have any right and provides a number of standards on the people. And the people did not want that in Egypt. So the people revolted and took the government back, and there was a military coup. And I praise God for that. Although our leaders came out against that, some of our leaders, especially Democratic leaders, and also some Republican leaders came out and thought that it was awful that democracy wasn't given a chance. Islam is not democratic. The Muslim Brotherhood is not democratic. They're autocratic. They're complete, total control of the people. So what was instituted was not a democracy, even though they elected their representative, they elected their president. I hate to tell you that, but the voting polls are rigged everywhere. The emblem that represents Islam contains 2 cross sabers, or swords. Their holy book, the Quran, explicitly instructs them to kill Jews and the people of the book. Christians are referred to as people of the book. And I will discuss more of that later. You know, Daniel talks about the Antichrist doesn't regard the gods of his father, but rather a god of fortresses. And the god of fortresses is Islam. Or the god of fortresses means war. The god of war. About 10 years ago I was in France, and I stayed one night in a hotel, and I was green to all this that was going on at the time, that Islam was uprising in Europe also. And I got in this room and I felt eerie. I felt I felt uneasy, and I looked, and over my bed showed these Arabs running with sabers drawn. And I put 2 and 2 together when I got back, and realized that this was a Muslim-owned motel, and that was a sign of jihad that they had put in all the rooms. So you can imagine going into a hotel and seeing war all over the rooms, and being American, whom they don't like at all. So that's just one of my experiences, and I've had a number of experiences where my experiences God talks to me from, and I was protected. I've been protected a lot. You know, walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for he has been with me in many situations all my life. The Antichrist does not control or rule the whole earth. In Daniel chapter 11, verses 21 through 45, the exploits of the Antichrist is revealed. He is opposed, when he starts conquering the world, he's opposed by the king of the south in Daniel 11. Then he is opposed by ships from Cyprus, and they turn him back. At the time of the end, the king of the south and the king of the north attacked him, and Edom and Moab and Ammon escaped from him. And I believe Edom is Arabia, and Moab and Ammon, I think, is the old Jordan. He fights with Egypt, and Egypt does not escape. Libya and Ethiopia are conquered by the beast. Now, Isaiah talks about Egypt, and this is pretty alarming, because it says that they don't escape, but then it says that Isaiah says that Jesus, the Lord, comes into Egypt, and he rescues the Christians there. Those are Coptic Christians, and they've been, really have been mutilated, and they've been martyred and killed, and God hears their prayers and he rescues them. As a matter of fact, in some of in Sudan right now, the Christians have become military. Instead of just lying passively and letting Islam cut off their heads, they've formed military groups, and they're fighting back. At some point, and in some situations, that's necessary, rather than let them cut off our heads and take us over. Jihad in the United States is not reported as jihad, but workplace violence, as Fort Hood has been. And we've had another Fort Hood attack, and we might find out that is also an act of jihad. I don't know yet. I haven't even studied it at all. But the last act was an act of jihad. and President Obama failed to call it an act of jihad, which is war on the infidels, and he called it a workplace incident, and therefore the insurance companies didn't pay for all those 30 people that were injured and those that were killed. They still haven't got any compensation for their results. And of course, Benghazi was an act of jihad, and Benghazi has been postponed for 2 years now, and it happened on 9/11, 2012. I'm not exactly sure, but they always do their acts of jihad on either a religious day or on celebrate their victory of 9/11, in which they flew the planes into the Twin Towers. So unless there's a miracle in the United States, the United States will fall. Barack Hussein Obama has been exposed, and yet nothing is done. We now have Muslims in our armed forces and in key positions in the White House. If Americans get fed up enough and take back their government peacefully, then we might be the one of the nations that oppose the Antichrist. Presently, we are working in concert with the Antichrist by insisting that Israel signs a peace treaty with Palestine. This will divide Palestine, and the punishment, God says, I'm going to punish you because you divide my land. If the peace treaty is signed, that will put us into the final 7 years of this age, and it will give the Antichrist the right to come on the scene. Also, the two witnesses will come on the scene, and we'll go into the 70th week of Daniel, and I've explained that on my videos. We play a major role in the downfall of Egypt, but thank God the Egyptians would not stand for Sharia law, and they overthrew the Muslim Brotherhood. We ship guns to the Syrians via Benghazi, if you'll really research this. And when we stopped supplying the weaponry, the Muslim Brotherhood burned down our embassy, killed 3 brave men, including our ambassador. Guess who gave the stand-down order? I'll give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count. And I'm not going to tell you. The stand-down order can only come from one person. The Muslim world holds major interest in our public news media now. Saudi Arabia has major interest in our major television networks. So needless to say, the news that we get is more propaganda and is twisted. The final thing that it comes down to is a war between goodness and evil, between good and evil. That's what the whole book is about. That's what the whole Bible is about. Everything has been written, and everything will come to pass, and everything is coming to pass. The world will not get better. It says when they say peace, it's that sudden destruction comes upon them. Peace and safety, sudden destruction comes upon them. The world is not going to get better. I wish it would. I'd like to, be positive. But I'm giving you hope today that we don't have to receive a mark. That all people, young and old, rich or poor, does not have to receive the mark. That is to a local region. That the Antichrist will have that. His rule will be complete. His rule will be complete politically and religiously and militarily. His rule will be complete. He will have complete obedience to Sharia law, and those who do not comply will be killed or will not be able to buy or eat. Needless to say, we are not to receive a computer chip unless it's to be placed in our body to save our lives, like a pacemaker or something electronic like that. But just to have information on us in case we fall over and the medics get there and they can take and read it, that's preposterous. Don't receive any kind of chip like that. We don't need to be implanted by foreign bodies in our body. We've got enough problems without having chips in our bodies. Excuse me. So now we have 2 veins of thought concerning the mark of the beast. One is the Western viewpoint, that all people will have to receive a mark to buy or sell. That mark will be the implant of a computer chip in the right hand or on the forehead. And by the way, the Greek word for right hand can mean also the upper arm or the right side of the body. I think if you listen to this video over and over, you're going to get revelation of what's going on. I study and study and study and read and read and read. It just doesn't pour out of heaven. And sometimes God opens it up, and all of a sudden I say, the light comes on, and I see things in a new light, a new perspective. And I'm not a preacher. I'm a teacher. And so I want to get the word out. As soon as I get revelation, I want to get the word out and clear up any kind of misunderstanding. I've been trying to clear up the misunderstanding in Bible prophecy. Now, the second vein of thought is the Eastern viewpoint. That viewpoint is that the Muslim nations serving under Islam will not allow the Christians in those nations to buy or sell unless they convert to Islam. And that is already happening. You see, Islam have their converts wearing headbands and armbands that display their creed, that there is but one God and his name is Allah, and his messenger is Muhammad. Now, here's another thing. You need to get the Quran and read it. Our generals, when they fight an enemy, they read the books, get the enemy's philosophy. You need not just take it, what I'm saying. There are many verses that tell us that in the Quran that tell Islam, the followers of Allah, to kill the Jews, to kill the people of the book, which the Christians are. So you need to read this yourself. Now, what are we to do about the number 666? Some of the older translations of the book of the Revelations, the oldest translation, interprets the number 616. For many years we've been using numerology to try to figure out if someone's name adds up to 666. And that almost gets into witchcraft doing that. So it can be a confusing statement, 666. So I wouldn't base everything on that, which I have done a lot during my life, so I'm rethinking this over. I believe that if we open our eyes, we will see that Islam is the last beast that comes out of the sea of humanity, and that the Antichrist rules only the Islamic nations. I believe that the Holy Spirit is going to unveil our eyes and our minds, and then we will realize that this mark, the mark of the beast, is the creed that followers of Islam wear on their right arm and on their forehead, and that the name that his followers must use to buy or sell is Allah. So I've gone over some information. I hope it's been interesting to you. I've made it clear. I made it succinct. I've took out a lot of the fluff and got right to the point. I don't know about America. It's looking bad for our economy, and it's looking bad for our leadership. It's looking really bad because we are instrumental, the main culprit, in helping spread Islam. So we'll have to just see what's going to happen. The dollar cannot continue just to be printed and printed and printed and printed. We cannot continue to print money to pay our debt. So it's looking bad. But one thing, that the sufferings of this present are not worthy to be compared to the glory that's going to be revealed in us. Supernaturally, for a lot of us, we're going to walk through these last days. So I just want to pray right now. Father, the most important thing is not our signs and our wonders and our miracles. The most important thing is that we receive you in our heart, that we can't be killed by the second death. Our mortal bodies can be killed, but the second death, we don't want to lose our eternal soul. So for anyone listening to this that have not received Jesus as Lord, I pray that they will just ask Him for forgiveness right now and ask Jesus to come into their lives and be Lord of their lives and to save them from this second death. So, if you receive that prayer, then you're born again, and the Lord will start just pouring information into you and declaring the truth, because Jesus said that you'll know the truth and the truth will set you free. And He said that the words that I speak are truth and they're spirit. And Jesus also said, I am the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and there wasn't anything that wasn't made that He didn't make. He was in the world, and the world knew Him not. So, until next time, as Jim Stockstill saying, keep looking for the handwriting on the wall.